We're live.
We are live.
Eunice, it's been a while since we last did a recording session.
It has been a good while, yes, that is true. But time is a social construct, so we don't think about that. But it is good to be back.
Definitely.
So, hey guys, welcome to The Tea Party, a podcast where two Asian American high school students give you the latest tea on down-the-middle politics and what it's like to be a student from our generation, all while drinking tea. And for me, that tea happens to be Yakult, because that's all I seem to drink on these podcast episodes, it seems.
I miss Yakult.
You missed him?
I haven't had it since I came back from Taiwan. It's not something we buy. Right. What I'm drinking, Eunice, is for the first time not vegan on this podcast, at least. I am drinking honey water, which I guess is a form of tea, but no tea leaves.
Honey water.
Yes.
So by honey water, do you mean like you took like a few spoonfuls of honey and you dunked it into the water and then you mixed it and you called it a day?
Yes.
That's very valid.
I just had coffee and I feel like drinking more tea right now would not be good for me. How are you?
How am I? It's been a wild, let's just say it's been a wild last 8 months now, because it's November. We're recording this on the 1st of November. Things have gone down.
Indeed.
And they will continue going down.
I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about it later, because that's all we have to talk about today. Disclaimer, currently...
We're thinking about not following a recording schedule.
Yeah.
After all, it'll just be episodes when they come out.
Because, we already have our own schedules with school and things like that. And this is a creative project, and artists don't follow schedules. Haha.
Very well said.
Anyways, today's tea is about responsibilities and procrastination, which has become increasingly prevalent for all of the high school students doing Zoom High School and all the university students doing Zoom Uni, as they call it, I believe.
Zuni. Oh, God.
I have a lot of opinions on this, Sean, but I would like to hear your experiences with the dual forces of responsibilities and procrastination.
The only reason I picked this topic is because those two things are the exact reason why we had a hiatus to begin with. And we're back, so it's time for us to face our fears. Yes. But also because I recently attended a debate on this topic.
Yes.
On whether Zoom has unequivocally destroyed Gen Z's work ethic. And I think the conclusion that we came to was that Zoom and online schooling in general, as you said, has indeed deteriorated our work ethic, and we didn't have that much to begin with.
Yeah, I really did not. They really took what little I had at the end of sophomore year, and then note I was about to move on to the hardest year of high school, as almost everyone agrees is junior year. Yeah. And then they were like, you know what, we're just gonna plunge that down to 0. I would even argue that I have a negative work ethic, like at this point. I don't know how that would work, but it certainly does feel like it.
I certainly remember the feeling of being motivated to work. But I guess it's a distant memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And compounded with just the general climate of everything that's going on right now.
Especially if you're a politically minded teenager like ourselves. And I really do have a newfound respect for those kids who've been doing online learning. It's like before COVID. The best way I can put it, in my experience, it's like you took school and then you deleted the classes and then you like tripled the homework, because technically everything is homework because you're doing it at home. it's really funny when you think about now how much you take for granted like lectures and sitting in the classroom and seeing a PowerPoint on the screen over there and then having like worksheets on your desk that you do and not having, like breakout, like even table groups were more bearable than breakout rooms, even just hearing the phrase.
Yeah, we're really taking that for granted.
Yeah.
Back then. I mean, okay, what I miss most, I mean, when you're talking about lectures, is the fact that you can whisper to like your table group.
Oh, yeah.
And, provide commentary.
But what the hell is she talking about? Like, I have no idea what she's on. Like, what do you guys understand what the hell is going on? That kind of thing.
I miss the humorous commentary that have to transition into making snarky comments while I'm muted.
But those kinds of snarky comments did help, though.
The thing is, if you do them over Zoom and you're all by yourself, number one, no one's going to laugh. And number two, you're always afraid that you might not be muted and the teacher heard you. And I don't know if you remember, but I sent you a Discord message a couple weeks ago explaining, I hate Spanish. And guess what happened?
Did you say this aloud?
Well, funny story. I made a snarky comment out loud, and I was unfortunately not muted because I was used to, returning from breakout rooms and the host muting everyone, but that didn't happen. So I was just having a conversation with myself.
You said to your profe, I hate Spanish?
It was lovely. It's not just that, too. I think it happened in math where it was like where my teacher was like, oh yeah, we love radicals and exponents because those big numbers are what you use in science. And I was like, I hate science. So what happened was that she paused in the middle of her speaking and she was like, okay, and then I out of habit checked my mute button and it wasn't on mute, and I just had to turn off my camera. And at this point, I was the only person with my camera on in all of my classes, mostly because
everyone could see you because they put all the people with cameras like before the people without the cameras, so they could see you.
And in the recordings, right, they only record the people with cameras on. So, I mean, I love looking at myself in my crispy camera and everything, and not to sound too narcissistic.
You guys probably don't know, Sean's camera is like offensively high quality. I don't even know where you got it or anything.
Yeah, so that happened in math and Spanish. So I think some of my teachers do hate me now, which... All right.
Okay.
Procrastination. What are your thoughts?
Man, I have had a long, very intimate relationship with procrastination for at least since the beginning of high school. If y'all know me, if anyone who knows me is listening to the podcast right now, I am the type of person to basically, my philosophy is just to challenge God by turning in stuff as late as possible while still getting a fairly decent GPA. I have a reputation of turning things in at 11:58 p.m.
Does that acclimatize you to the stress?
It kind of does. I'm very used to that kind of last minute stress. I've had, times where I've been taking classes. I mean, not classes, tests. And I have an hour to do it because I only gave myself an hour to do it. And, the stress, he kind of gets, pretty intense.
Sounds like a good thing.
Well, in a way, but I feel like... So I have a very long-winded theory that I'm not going to go into right now about why I'm like this. Mainly has to do with the fact that I was labeled a gifted kid in my youth.
Oh, yes.
All the former gifted kids know. Y'all know.
Heard about this. I'm not one of them.
Yeah, I could give a long talk about it, but we don't have time for that. I feel like the fact that I'm very used to stress and I can kind of, adapt to the stress is a good thing, but also the fact that I have little to no work ethic is probably going to bite me in the ass later.
And overall, I think I'm not going to get used to this at all. I'm very scared.
The thing about being a very habitual procrastinator is that it gives you a very acute sense of time. Like for me, I know that if I have as long as it's not a huge project, and it's like I only have like a few assignments to do in any given night, right? The latest I can start is 10 o'clock. I can't start 11. I have tried doing 11 and it has not worked out. I can tell you from experience. My GPA can tell you from experience. The latest I can start is at 10. And then once you set yourself a starting point and you give yourself like that 2 hour window, you can once you're used to procrastinating, you can tell about approximately how much time you need to budget for each assignment in order to get everything turned in on time. It's like it's very on the go, you know? I've tried doing 11 o'clock, that doesn't work, it never works. I've tried doing 10:30, that also does not work. Only 10 o'clock works for me. So.
Sounds like a superpower to me. I never have a sense of time. If I actually go all in with procrastination or working hard, I lose all sense of it. Time just flies by.
All sense of time?
Time passing. Yeah. Again, very subjective.
Time is the one thing you cannot buy.
Oh, I hope in that discussion we've covered enough topics on student responsibilities and student procrastination.
Mm-hmm. Just don't be
Gen
me.
Z
It's the moral of the story. We're going to move on to random, as I like to call it, and as like Sean hates the phrasing.
We will always have this debate. It is the random shenanigans segment to keep it
I don't
PG.
know why you feel the need to censor us. It's not like there are any 6-year-olds listening to this. I mean, well, that's way too young. Any 10-year-olds listening to this podcast being influenced by my use of the word.
Oh my god, Eunice. This is supposed to be for the global community.
Today, what would you like to talk about?
Yes. So, I actually want to talk about, quick plug on my camera right here, my pictures.
Your pictures?
I promise this isn't random. I'm just getting extra legitimacy points because we talked about my camera before.
He's just plugging his Flickr. That's all this is.
But if you scroll down to page 2, you might be able to see one of my awesome pictures. This was taken last night during Halloween.
Which one? I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking at. Page 2?
Of the call doc. Yes.
Of the call doc. Oh, we're on the call doc. Oh, that is the moon. Wait, wasn't yesterday? Yesterday was supposed to be a blue moon, wasn't it?
Yes. It was bright. I don't exactly know what a blue moon is, but it was bright and it was full and was nice and large. So
I was actually in a call with my friend last night when the stars were out, and she said that the moon is very bright. You should go see it. And me being the dumbass I was, I couldn't figure out where the hell the moon was. So I looked out at about 5 different windows and could not locate the moon. So I'm kind of sad I missed it. Do you know if it was actually blue or was it just like...
I think what I recall what a blue moon is the second full moon in a month.
Oh, so it's not actually
I think,
blue.
Yeah, that's how the phrase goes, once in a blue moon.
Oh, that's so disappointing. Why would they market it like that?
It's a full moon, and it looks very awesome. I mean,
but it's not
that's
blue.
taken with my camera, okay? That's...
You realize if you give the FDA, the Federal Drugs Food and Drugs Administration, I know my agencies, they would fine you for mislabeling a product like that. And yet, as the astronomy community gets to say, yeah, this is called a blue moon. We're gonna move on.
Where are we gonna move
dope on? Photos, by the way. I checked out your Flickr. They look pretty cool.
So yes, I just wanted to show you that because it's really awesome, and it's beautiful, and it's crispy.
I love looking at the moon. So sometimes I will literally just look up. I don't even know my window faces the moon. Maybe I should have checked my bedroom window last night. But when you stare at the moon, do you ever just think that's like a planet? Like that's a whole. I was about to swear. I can't swear in this podcast. That's a whole something planet.
But yeah, it's a whole freaking ball in space.
Yes, and we can see it. Like that's a thing. That's a thing that exists.
Yeah. I've also taken pictures of Mars and Jupiter, and you can actually see Mars and Jupiter.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
This is my random shit for the day. Back in like elementary school, there was this one time where this guy from a museum came to our class. It was like probably second grade because we were like Chinese children, and he made like this huge inflatable dome that we all went into, and then there's like he projected like the night sky and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh, dude, look at all these cool stars." I remember very clearly. I don't know why. My brain selectively chooses random memories for me to keep in my teenager years.
A planetarium.
Yeah, I pointed at like this red dot in the sky, and I was like, "Oh, that looks like a cool star." And he was like, "That's Mars." I'm like, "That's dope." So Mars is my favorite planet for only that reason.
Oh my gosh, Mars 2028, guys. If you know what that means.
I don't.
It's okay. I'm gonna throw this out there for all the listeners.
That is it for our random segment. We're gonna move on to the politics segment, which I'm sure, it being November 1st, 2020, everyone has been anticipating.
Ah, yes. So we are approximately 2 days.
It's November 3rd. Talking about elections, I'm gonna be real. I don't think we're gonna get the results on election day, and I've heard other people, specifically people on Twitter, say we're not gonna get election day because there have been mishaps in the system. Did you help your parents vote? Because I did like most of the research for my parents' ballot, so you could say that
you know the process for when you grow up and can't vote.
2 years, 2 more years.
I'm gonna need to elicit your help in 2 years.
I think there's a lot of youth that don't really know that the presidential ballot, the ballot isn't just, presidents, Democratic, Republican, other, and then like that's it. Like there's literally so many things you have to vote for. You have to vote for federal positions, like who's going to be your rep and who's going to be your senator.
Yep.
Who's gonna be the president, of course, and who's going to be like especially like state level positions. Talking about, you have they're not called resolutions. They're called like
referendums.
Those
there
things.
We go.
Yeah. And you have to vote for your state representatives. You have to vote for state treasurers. There's state positions I never heard of until like
just now
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long process, but it's weirdly fulfilling.
I mean, it is the cornerstone of a democracy.
It is.
If we want to talk about that and be all idealistic.
Yeah.
But
be all
honestly,
big picture.
I guess that's probably why most people don't vote, because it's confusing. And no one has time for that until you got to make time for it. And you should.
Do have to make time for it. But the problem being, like, for those states that don't do all mail voting, like we do here in Washington, that usually requires, standing in line for hours, and then you have to make all your decisions right there at the ballot box. Like, you have to know who you're voting for, and if you don't even know what's going to be on the ballot, then you're just filling in positions just because they're Democrat, or filling positions just because they're, Republican,
on
going
party
down
lines.
the ballot. Yeah, along party. Like, a lot of people do that. And I really understand like how tempting it is to do that.
Can you just imagine doing that though? Like standing in line for hours and hours? Because
I cannot.
It is the American political process.
It is the American political process. I mean, I guess we should be glad that we get to vote at all.
Right. So go out and vote. Here's the PSA, please, if you can.
Yeah.
If you can't, make sure you register to vote, because 17-year-olds can do that.
16-year-olds, when you get your driver's license, I believe you are able to register in advance. Yeah.
Yes.
And if you are also a teen that, if you're ready to register yourself or you can't, register someone else who is an adult and is legally able to vote, because, every vote counts.
Although you are just a single vote in a million, vote C, you are still part of a block.
Hundreds of millions. 300 million.
Hundreds of millions of votes. A sea of that. You're still part of a voting block, and your voice still matters. Which is, I guess, both horrifying and amazing to think about. Question: why do we call politicians who act in a youthful fashion not calling out any names, but I hope we've all heard the phrase, children on the playground. Why do we do that?
I'm going to be real with you, Sean. I've never heard that phrase before.
Interesting. So, you've never heard, for example, people complaining about the inefficiency of the Senate just by saying, they're acting like children on the playground. They're calling names. They're retaliating. They're blocking things. Have you heard of that?
I've never heard the phrase, but I can understand, just from hearing the context with the Senate, especially the Senate, why people would refer to politicians as children on the playground. It's a very interesting question.
Yeah, I've heard of that phrase more and more recently in the news. And although I'm not going to give any context for that, I just find it to be extremely inappropriate.
Inappropriate?
Yes. I think, honestly, we can definitely find better metaphors than that. I can vouch that my playground experiences as a child did not encompass any name-calling, did not encompass any deadlocking or political opposition.
Children do tend to be, if you're talking about any given child in an elementary school playground, children do tend to be more mature than a lot of politicians you see. And I feel like that's a big reason why a lot of youth are just people in general are discouraged from being interested in politics, getting involved, even voting, as we were talking about before.
People think of them as stubborn, but not necessarily if you think about all the factors that go into their decisions, because it's politics.
Politics is very complex.
Student life.
We are live, surprisingly.
Okay, I hope we lighten this up just before we end.
No.
It's gonna get more depressing. Let's do this. Okay, firsthand, IB. We did an episode a while ago talking with a former, or not a former, but a current IB DP student. And now that we've entered into the IB world ourselves, virtually, what are our feelings on that?
It's a wild ride, bro. It's been a wild ride.
It is certainly something that the memes did not prepare me for, Eunice.
I feel like the fact that I am part of the program, it only sunk in about mid-October, and then I realized, oh crap, this is what it's going to be like until next June, and we're going to do it all over again, and then next September. Yep. Yeah,
no kidding. I think with IB, I don't know if this is true with you, but for me, I'm not getting... It's like entering to high school all over again.
In a way. There is that learning curve.
Most of my teachers have taken away multiple choice assessments in favor of written ones. And what's more, most of my teachers are grading on a different level than what I've been used to before.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
And if you want to know more from an insider who doesn't happen to want to complain, go ahead and listen to our podcast episode.
Yeah, with Nathan.
All right. Eunice, thank you so much for potting with me.
It's been a pleasure.
This episode is edited by Sean, produced by Sean and Eunice. The graphic design work of the episode art is done by Eunice. This podcast is hosted on anchor.fm. The music you're hearing right now and at the beginning of the podcast is by Mozart for his opera, The Magic Flute. You can email us at atpartypodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to follow our Instagram at atpartypodcast. And
as the Brothers Green always say,
don't forget to be awesome.